Are you currently searching all around YouTube trying to find a video that is going to help you set up your very first saltwater tank? Stop searching. You've found it. Hey, how's it going guys, and welcome to Aaron's Aquarium. Now if you are looking at setting up your very first saltwater tank, whether you're making the transition from a tropical tank into a saltwater tank, or you're just going straight in there and you're starting off with a saltwater tank, hopefully this video is going to be the one that gets you going, because today we're going to be setting up a super simple reef aquarium. Now at the end of this video, if you find it helpful, if you can hit that like button please, that would be awesome, because other people will see all of those likes and think, that video's helped other people out, maybe it will help me also. So if you can hit that like button, that would be super cool. And if you want to follow along with this tank after we've set it up, because month on month we're going to do a little update and see how it's getting on, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Alright, so what is the first thing that you need when you want to set up a saltwater tank? Well, you probably think it was a tank, wouldn't you? Nope. The first thing that you need is knowledge and understanding. The first thing that you definitely need to learn is the nitrogen cycle. Now the nitrogen cycle is the foundations of your hobby. The foundations on what you're going to build your saltwater tank on. Now imagine you was building a house on a swamp. Eventually that house would start to move, start to creak, because the floor underneath it isn't solid and your house would fall down. And that is exactly what can happen to your saltwater tank if you don't build good foundations. Now throughout this video, you're going to see a little card pop up just like this one. The one above my head right now is for the nitrogen cycle. I've done a little video that explains it. Now go and watch that video, learn it and understand it, because that is what is going to give you the good foundations for your saltwater tank. Once you've got that in there, then you can move on to the next stage, which is, oh, we're going to need the tank back, aren't we? Now when choosing a tank, what do you choose? Which one do you go for? The tank that you choose is the one that suits your lifestyle best. Now you will hear many people say get the biggest possible tank you can get, but with big tanks comes big cost. And you've got to bear that in mind when setting up a saltwater tank, because this hobby is not a cheap hobby. Everything has a price tag. Say for example, this tank in total is 1,300 litres. Now it's brilliant because it's huge and it looks great and everything, but just to fill this tank up with water on the first run is going to cost you a few £100 or dollars. So choosing a tank should be based on what space you have available in your home, and also what does your budget allow, because with big tanks, as I said, comes bigger cost. So really think about that and choose a tank accordingly. Now a lot of people will tell you that you need to get a big tank because you get better stability, and you do, but if you do your foundations right, if you get that knowledge into your head at the beginning, then it doesn't really matter what size of tank you go for. Okay, so now we've got the tank. What do we do next? Well, we need to filter it. We need to work out how we're going to keep the water that sits inside the tank nice and clean each and every day. Now, I bet you've probably heard that if you're going to set up a saltwater tank, you have to use a sump. I bet you've heard that, haven't you? Because that's what a lot of people think in the saltwater hobby. Now, don't get me wrong, a sump is very, very versatile, and a sump is probably a better option just because of its versatility. Now again, as I said earlier, just above my head here, we've got another video that links to my video that is called Sumps versus Canister Filters. Now that video gives you more information about the pros and the cons of sumps and canister filters. For this video, we're going to use a canister filter, mainly because I want to show people that you can use a canister filter on a saltwater aquarium. You don't necessarily need to get a sump. Canister filters are a lot easier to access. Most shops will sell a canister filter. They're dead easy to just clip over the back of a tank and away you go. Whereas some sumps can be quite difficult to install if the display tank isn't set up for them. So today we're going to be using this. This is the Eheim Professional 4 250. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to be showing you all of the different things that I'm going to be using on the tank. There will be links for all of these different products in the description of this video. They are affiliate links, and if you decide to use any of those links, I will earn a small percentage from those at no extra cost from you. And it's a great way to help support the channel and support me making videos just like this one. Now, just up there is another link to a video for this filter. In that video, I unboxed the filter and I put it together. If you want to check that out, go and check that out now. If not, I'm just going to put this on the aquarium now. Okay, so hopefully you watched the unboxing and assembly video of this Eheim canister filter, because now we're going to be installing it on the tank. So all we really need to do is just get the door open. We need to place, obviously, the canister filter into the aquarium, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to spin it around so you guys can see what's going on at the back. Okay, so at the back of the aquarium, what we're going to do is we're going to pull the pipe work through. Now, if you notice, we got one length of pipe in the last video and it wasn't cut in half or anything like that, and I haven't cut it yet. I've fitted it to the canister filter, but I haven't cut it yet, because what I want to do now is work out how much pipe I actually need, and then I can see how much I need to cut off. Okay, so our pipes are in place now and we've got them situated here. So now we can get this pipe out and see how much we actually need. So if we just hold it up like this, we can see that this one we need to cut about here, and this one we don't need anywhere near as much, so we can cut that round about that Eheim size. So I'll do that now and stick it on the pipe. All right, so that's the canister filter in now, and that's the reason why I selected a canister filter for this build, because it's nice and simple, and it's just the versatility of being able to add it to all sorts of different types of aquariums. You know, we just slid it into the cabinet, brought the pipes over, stuck them on with suction cups, done. Now, this is a custom system. You don't see tanks these dimensions normally, and it was able to just go straight into the tank, no problem. So that's why I like canister filters. So moving on to the next stage of setting up a tank, and that is the aquascape, putting rocks into the aquarium. Now, there's loads of different types of rocks that you can go for, but they tend to fall into two categories: dry rock or live rock. Now, live rock does exactly what it says on the tin. It's alive. There's loads of living organisms within inside that rock. Think, you know, loads of little beasties. Now, some of these little beasties are great for your tank, and they're really positive and they can really help out your tank. But there's also a con to that, where sometimes you can get live rock where it's got negative things within it. Now, I personally don't use live rock because I don't like that 50-50 chance. You know, I don't like to put something in my tank and not know whether it's going to be good for my tank or bad. What I use is dry rock. So this is the rock that I'm going to be using in this build. Now, the reason why I go for dry rock is just like I said, there's nothing in it. This is a man-made rock as well. There's nothing in it at all. I've not got to worry about any beasties in here, any, you know, parasites or anything in here, because it's completely dry. And you know, it is what it is. Also as well, I like the look of it. You know, it's a nice shape, this piece, and it's already purple. So straight from day one, you get sort of like a mature looking tank straight from the off. This one, in fact, is the Walt Smith 2.1 rock. So if you're looking for it, like I said earlier, there is links in the description. And if there isn't a link for your area for this rock, I will provide an alternative, something like Carib Sea Life Rock. That's also a nice rock, which is purpled up. So there'll be a link in the description for that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do an aquascape, and then I'm going to explain to you why it looks the way it looks. Alright, so this is the aquascape that I've been able to create with the rocks that I had, and I'm quite happy with it. Number one, because you know it sits right in this aquarium, and because what I've always wanted to do and I've never done before is have a shallow tank and just have the rocks coming out of the water ever so slightly. So if you have things like hermit crabs or you know stuff like that, they might climb up to the top and come out of the water and just chill out on the top. So I really hope that that happens, because that'll be an awesome photo opportunity. All right, so we're moving along now, aren't we? We've got our tank in place, our filtration's in, and now we've got the rock how we like it. So what do we do now? Well, now we're going to add the sand to the aquarium. Now, the reason why I didn't add the sand before I added the rock is because you can have cave-ins. Now, if you put like a nice thick layer of sand on the floor and then you put the rocks on top of it, you could get something like a goby, which likes to dig in the sand, you know, with its mouth and filter food out of the sand for it to eat. It could start digging underneath the rocks and cause the sand to move away, and then cause the rocks to collapse because they're not being supported by the sand anymore. So I always put the rocks on the floor of the aquarium first, and then I'll take the sand and I'll put the sand around the rocks. Now, the sand that I'm going to be using is this stuff. This is 1mm crushed coral. So basically they've taken old coral skeletons and crushed them down into a 1mm grain size. I really like this because it's not so small that it becomes like dust in the water, yet it's not too big that it just doesn't look right, you know. It's perfect, and it's great for things like gobies if you've got sand sifters, because they can very easily put it in the mouth and sift it through the gills and take food out of it. I just think this is a nice size, and I think it just looks really good. Now, you can get, you know, larger grains of coral if you want to. You can actually get sand where it's very fine, or you can get something that's called live sand, which again, it's a bit like live rock, which contains, you know, little organisms and things like that. Some people like it. Again, me personally, I don't like it because it's adding sort of like a potential for doubt in my aquarium. It's adding something in there which I don't know what it is, so I don't like doing that. So this is dry 1mm crushed coral. I have actually rinsed it out. I've rinsed it out first so that I can get all the dead, you know, the dusty fines out, so that when I actually fill this aquarium with water, it won't be as dusty right at the beginning. All right, so we're nearly there now. We've just got a few more things to add, and we've got our very first saltwater aquarium. Now, saltwater aquariums have to be warm because most of the stuff that we're going to put in here comes from tropical climates, so we can't just leave the water cold. So we have to provide some form of heater to this aquarium so that the water stays warm. Now, for this build, I'm going to be using this Eheim Thermo Control. Now, these also are known as Jaeger heaters. These are really good heaters. Many people will swear by these heaters. So we're going to be using one of these in the aquarium. All right, so that's the heater in, and now our fish and coral are going to be nice and happy in their warm environment. But it's not enough. We still need to add a little bit more. We've got some all right flow in this aquarium at the moment, courtesy of the spray bar coming from the canister filter, but it's not enough. If you imagine it, the flow is going to be coming from that end of the tank and coming across here, down and back again, cross, down, back again. It's going to be the same all day. Corals are not going to like that. They're just going to be like this all day. You can imagine they're not going to be happy with that. So we're going to add one of these. These are called wavemakers. And basically what they are is just a little pump with a propeller in it, and it just pushes water all day long. It doesn't filter, it doesn't do anything else, it just pushes water. Now we're going to add one of these to help diversify the flow, because like I said before, flow is very, very important. So we're going to use this and we're going to put it on this side of the aquarium, blowing that way. What that's going to do is the water this way is then going to intercept the water that's coming this way, and it's going to create turbulence. It's going to make random water movements. So your corals are going to be like, yeah, all day, rather than boo. So that's what we're going to do. So this one is the J-Cod SOW4, and it's a tiny little thing. Look how cute that is. Look at that. Oh, but that's going to be perfect for this size tank. Number one, it's not going to be massively in your face. It's not going to stick out like a sore thumb, but at the same time, it's going to provide the right amount of flow that we need. So what we're going to do with this is just get it, and we're going to stick it over the tank, place it on this side with a magnet that's provided, and we're going to aim it so that it's just brushing the surface, so the flow is coming upwards, so you're going to get surface agitation. And we need surface agitation. Just in case you don't know what that means, is basically, do you know when you look at water and it's all ripply on the top? We need that, because what that does is it sort of like, it opens the door, so to speak, and it allows oxygen to come into the water, and it also allows carbon dioxide to get out of the water. Whereas if the water's just stagnant, if it's just still, the carbon dioxide struggles to get out and the oxygen struggles to get in. So if we create flow, movement on top, it'll create movement, and it sort of like opens the door and allows oxygen to come in and carbon dioxide to go out. So that's what we're going to do with that. Place it in there and we go around. Now we've only got one more piece of equipment to add to this tank, but this piece of equipment is probably the piece of equipment that you're going to spend the most on, or you should, and that is the lighting. Now, adding a light to this aquarium will dictate what type of corals you can keep. Now, if you do in the end want to keep, you know, more difficult corals like SPS corals, then you're going to need to spend a little bit more money on a light. Now, don't see it as a purchase, see it as an investment, because although right now you're probably thinking, oh, I don't think I'll be able to handle stuff like that, a year down the line, or maybe more, or maybe less, you probably will want something a little bit harder or something a little bit more difficult to keep than what you've got right now. So investing in a good light now is the best option. Otherwise, you're going to buy a cheaper light, get rid of it, lose money on that one, maybe get a little bit more of an expensive light, get rid of it, lose money on that one, and so on and so forth until you get to that light. So if you can, I know it's not always possible, but if you can, buy one of the best lights you can get straight away. So the light that I'm going to be using for this build is the Kello-Ray AE200. Now this light isn't really accessible, it's not easy to get. You can pick this light up on AliExpress or Alibaba, one of those things, but it's basically a Chinese light, but this light is an absolute beast of a light. Now, you can find this light under different brand names. So if you're in America, the light that's very, very similar to this one is called the Cobalt C-Ray. So if you are looking for this type of light, you know, you can check that one out. If I can find any links for that light, I will put it in the description. So there we go. That is everything that we need to set up a saltwater aquarium. We've got lights, we've got a heater, we've got a wavemaker, and we've got a filter. And that is all we need to run a nice, simple saltwater aquarium. Now you may speak to people, and some people may tell you that you need a skimmer, and you need a reactor, and you need all of these other things, but you don't. These are the things that you need. All of the other things are extras. So a skimmer, for example, a skimmer is nice to have. It can help you out if you're struggling to maintain your water parameters. But if you can run a tank properly, if you can maintain it, keep on top of your maintenance and run everything as it should, a skimmer isn't needed. You don't have to have one. And it's the same for a reactor as well. Reactors are basically just tubes that hold some sort of media. You don't necessarily need one of those either. So say for example, if you had phosphate issues and you needed to get your phosphates down, you can very easily just get a bag of phosphate remover and put it into one of the trays in your canister filter, and that'll do you just fine. So you don't need those products, but if you'd like to have them, then go for it. You know, I'm not saying don't, but it's not something that you need to spend your money on just yet anyway. Right, so is that us done? That's us finished, isn't it? Of course not. We can't put anything in there, can we? There's no water. Now, the reason why I've left water to last is because I want to make sure everything's in place. I want to make sure that everything's exactly where I want it to be before I commit to adding water, because once I've added water, that's it then, innit? You know, everything's wet and, you know, it's ready. So before I've committed to that, I want to make sure that everything's where I want it to be. I'm happy with it. Now I'm golden. Now, when it comes to mixing salt water, it's not that difficult at all. Now, I've decided to go with the Fritz RPM Blue Box for my tank because it has nice base levels. And what I mean by that is the levels that you get in this salt, things like your calcium, your alkalinity, your magnesium, are very similar to what you would find in the sea. But you can actually buy salts that have elevated levels. For example, the red box version of this. And that is ever so slightly or quite a bit more than what you would find in the sea. A lot of people like using those salts because it gives them a bit of headroom. It gives them a bit of a buffer. So if they forget to do a water change or something happens, they're up here and they've got a long way to go before they drop below what would normally be found in the sea. Now, it's personal preference what you would like to use, but I personally feel it's better to just keep on top of your tank and run levels that are as close to the sea as possible. So the salt that we're using recommends that you mix 35 grams of salt to 1 litre of RODI water. Now, we've got 25 litres of RODI water here, so we're going to times 35 by 25, and that will give us 875 grams of salt. We're going to take that salt and we're going to mix it in the water. We've got the wavemaker that was in the tank in here, so that's going to help mix the salt around and get the salt mixed in with the water. This is 875 grams of salt. It's not that much, is it really? Now, don't just throw it all in and launch it in because you'll get it clumping at the bottom of the barrel. Just bit by bit, tip the salt in, give it a chance to get circulating around the water with the wavemaker. Just bit by bit, throw it in until this container is empty, and then allow the water to clear. Wait for that water to completely clear so you can see down to the bottom of the barrel. Once you're there, get your refractometer and your pipette. What you need to do is just suck up a little bit of water, place it on top of your refractometer, close the window, make sure there's no bubbles that you can see, place it up to your eye, look through, and then that will tell you whether or not you've got enough salt in there in comparison to water. If you're getting 35 ppt or if 1.026, you're laughing. You can throw it into your tank. So guys, here it is. This is the Aaron's Aquarium super simple reef tank. Now you've finally got everything set up and everything running, all of your water's in and everything. Now you need to make a choice. You've got two options now on what to do. Now you can do what is called a traditional cycle where you add a form of ammonia to this tank, whether it's ammonia itself, a raw prawn, fish food, or something like that, where you add it to the tank and that breaks down, becomes ammonia, and starts your nitrogen cycle. Remember part one of this video? Remember the first thing that you needed to know? This is why you needed to know it, because now you need to make a decision. Or you can take the more modern approach and add bacteria to this aquarium at the exact same time that you add your first fish. Now, I will be doing that method because the way I see it is nowadays we don't bake our own bread, we go to the shop and we buy a loaf. Now, using bottled bacteria is a bit like that. We're still getting to the same point, we're just getting there in a different way and a little bit of a faster way. So I'm going to be using this Fritz Turbo Start on this aquarium. So all I'm going to do is basically tip the bacteria into the tank at the exact same time I add fish, and I'm golden. That will be my tank set up. So I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have any fish, but if you want to follow on with this tank, make sure that you've hit the subscribe button. There is also a playlist to this video series just there. If you click on that playlist, you'll see all of the videos that are a part of this video series. So if you want to keep up with it, make sure you subscribe and you can see how this tank progresses. Guys, I hope this video has been beneficial to you. If it has, make sure that you hit the like button and share it with your friends. Share this video as far and as wide as possible. Thank you so much for checking out Aaron's Aquarium. I will see you all in the next video.